You're listening to the Gab Street Podcast, Columbus, Ohio's #1 podcast for underground talent. Every week we have new conversations with interesting individuals who contribute to the Columbus economy and its lively culture. You may find just what you're looking for right in your backyard. Let's get right into it.
Our neighborhood, and they've all seen me do stand-up a million times. So and so we've all been quarantining, but we're all together, so we're kind of like, I was like, I can't keep talking about comedy to you guys. Like, I feel so guilty about it. I was like every conversation, I'm like, oh, there's this comedian that has this bit that applies to this exact conversation. Let's pull it up.
Man, do you think people are going to want to hear coronavirus bits after this at all? Or are we just going to be like, nope,
I don't know.
We forget that shit.
I have no idea how comedy's going to look after this. Like, because, like, I have a bit about, like, the shutdown that I've, like, worked on so far, but, like, it's not about, like, coronavirus, really, you know what I mean? It's more of, like...
the result.
Right. It's like, you know, like, like, did you guys better yourselves? You know, how basically the setup's going to be, like, I'm going to ask people, like, what did they do, like, to better themselves during quarantine, blah, 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 and they'll be like, yeah, I didn't do any of that shit. And then, and then, like, go a different direction about what I actually did, and then just, like, make fun of, like, a serial killer, you know. That's all I'm going to probably end up doing for that. Like, so hopefully that will be something that's palatable, but, like, I mean, I don't know, like, I haven't gone in, like, a couple weeks, but, like, the protests have been crazy, too, and, like, all this political shit's going crazy. I think people either, A, be, like, so overloaded with political and everything that they're not going to want it, which is fine by me because I don't really do political stuff, or it's going to be the opposite where everyone's scared and frustrated, they need, like, a guiding voice through it. I think it's going to be, like, one of those two, I think.
Yeah. I'm feeling like there are going to be some top shelf maskers versus non-maskers jokes.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like, I think it's kind of like shirts and skins in high school right now.
Yeah, right.
Or it just shows your political affiliation, like, literally right there.
Yeah.
Man, how about that weird counter protest thing that went on yesterday?
Yeah, my mom was working there.
Really? Where's she again?
She's at the law library.
Yeah.
But she's actually working from home, I think, mostly for the rest of the month.
Yeah.
But they were roasting a pig. They had a pig roast because of cough.
Whoa.
You know, like actually like a totally like...
Dude, that's tight.
Like the most deepest metaphor, like eating it.
Fuck.
But then like it was like anti-maskers and like BLM.
Yeah.
And they were like sharing the pig and stuff, and they were like, you know,
dude, that's
insults
I don't get it.
So you gotta bridge that gap.
Yeah.
It's like, let's literally roast a pig. That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Wow.
Dude, I love protesters are great, and I love, like, how old are you guys?
19.
19.
Yeah.
So your generation, what? Z is it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll be 27 in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So, like, I love your guys' generation because, like, you have, like, it's almost like a nihilist, like, don't give a fuck about what, like, the TikTok shit.
Yeah.
Like, with the President Trump. I was like, okay. Like, hats off. I love that generation. It's so cool. Like the way that, like, you guys, like, fucking troll people is, like, next level. That, like, I can't even begin to understand how those ideas come up. I'm just, like, in awe.
We have one friend that's TikTok famous.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Linus.
Yeah.
We have a buddy. I think this might be the first time I brought it up on the show, but our buddy Linus bought this, like, I don't know, car horn with a remote that you can.
Yeah.
And it says "bruh."
Yeah.
So
It's so stupid.
it is so
Exactly.
stupid.
That's why.
But if you knew him, you'd be like, yeah, that's a Linus.
Yeah,
that's
so
funny.
But that shit ended up getting, like, I don't know what, 1.2 million
Something
views or some
like
shit. So
Damn.
yeah, and people, like, started buying the horn from that company as a result.
And
they
he
reached
was like,
out to him for a sponsorship.
and he was like, give me some money. For,
basically.
I want some of those profits.
Dude, that's
I think he
awesome.
ended up
Yeah.
getting some money from that.
Because like he's the main reason why they got their profits increased for like that month. Like
Yeah,
he's the main reason.
yeah.
How old is he?
He's 19 as well.
19.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
He's doing way more shit at 19 than I ever did. That's amazing.
Yeah, Jake and I went to high school together, so
Okay.
that's how I know him. But
Are you guys from Columbus?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
we went to the accursed Upper Arlington High School,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I've been to Upper Arlington one time.
and that's all you need.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got really, 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 really stoned. Like, I I only smoke like flower and stuff because I think anything else is like too druggy for me, you know. But to do regularly, at least not to not do it. Like I love drugs, but so I had like dabs and like edibles, like all this crazy shit. Smoked a joint with my buddy, and then I went to Upper Arlington because I got lost. And then I went to the Kroger, and it was like this weird, like dystopian nightmare. It felt like I walked in, and like and this was like,
was this one on Henderson?
I have no idea. It was like really fancy.
Yeah.
And I don't really know New Albany at all, but it was like really fancy. It almost looked kind of like the Louvre. Like there was like this weird, like kind of diamond shaped glass cutout, like in the front. Yeah. You know how the Louvre has that gigantic. So.
Something they would do.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, you guys are great. So I just like went in, and it was like this weird dystopian. This was like a year ago, so like way before the pandemic. But like half the shelves were just like empty, and there was just like a lot of old people just like slowly walking around, and like some of the lights were flickering. It felt like really weird. I was like, this is so. So I was walking around.
Shit.
Yeah, right. It felt like super like almost like what's that FX show about? American Horror Story, like scene out of that because it was just so like something's not right. You know what I mean? Like I might get murdered. Oh and so I don't remember what I was like kombucha and like I think like a football or something stupid. And so I like check out and then I'm like waiting in the line and then this woman who's like guiding the people to like the self checkout just like she's like 17 or whatever. She just like pops over and gets like really close to my face and opens her eyes like really really wide. She's like, "Hi. Can I help you?" And I was like, "No, I'm good." And I just like put the stuff down and left. I was like, "I don't want to." I was like, "This is too much."
A sensory overload.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what the fuck wrong with this
suburban grocery store.
Yeah, and I'm like, I lived in the suburbs probably for like a couple of years, but like I'm from the city, so like suburbs always automatically like this feels weird. You know what I mean? It always bothers me.
Yeah. So you mentioned Dayton earlier. Is that where
I'm
you were from?
Yeah, okay. Born and raised in Dayton. And I lived in Cincinnati for a summer, and then Columbus for like a year and a half, I think, almost at this point. So, yeah, but yeah, I love Dayton. It's cool. It's a super small town. It's Dave Chappelle lives there.
Yeah. I actually ran into him once. But,
oh, really? Yeah.
I mean, I didn't say anything to him.
Yeah,
I saw him.
Yeah.
Zay Crypto and I were standing in line at Dino's coffee shop or whatever. We're just like,
we went to Yellow Springs just a couple weeks ago to meet up with my girlfriend's parents.
Yeah.
And I was like just driving and I was like, wonder if I'll see Dave today. And we park and I look over and he's like, we parked right outside Dino's and Dave's just right there like yelling across the street. And I was like, well, yeah, I guess I will run into him today. He's right there. It's cool. Yeah, everybody in Dayton has like a crazy Chappelle story. Like there was when Kanye's Life of Pablo album came out.
Oh, God.
He got this like, you know those Beat pills, like the Bluetooth speakers? Yeah. Do you remember the big ones that came out that were like duffel bag size that you could like strap around your shoulder and like carry around? They were like huge. And so Chappelle had one of those and he was playing Life of Pablo and he was like smoking joints on the street and he was like, think about it. Kanye wasn't shit before me. Think about it. And he just kept doing that and I was like, yeah, you're right. Like he's just like smoking and no one did anything. Everyone was like, that's just Dave. Like just doing what he does. He has like there are no rules that apply to Dave Chappelle in Dayton. It's insane. Like he can like smoke inside buildings all he wants, like at the bar or whatever, like fucking smoke weed, like have his own bottles of liquor, and like he's like a millionaire, and everyone's like, who cares? Like, it's Dave Chappelle.
He's like the only royalty that there ever should be.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
honestly,
he's an interesting character because like he's obsessed with Dayton. Like it's super weird, like how obsessed with it he is. Like he thinks it's his home because everyone treats him like a normal human being. Like because like there are some people every once in a while that like, oh my god, it's Dave Chappelle, but like. For all of us, like, I remember seeing Dave Chappelle when I was a kid, you know what I mean? Like, just because, like, after the Chappelle show, it was, like, 2004, 2005, he was, like, in Dayton and has lived there for, like, 15 years, so he's, like, part of the community. So, like, everyone's just like, yeah, cool, Dave, whatever, we don't really give a shit that he's famous. Like, he's just cool to hang around, you know? And they did that huge block party after that mass shooting in the Oregon district where he had, like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, he had, like, Jon Stewart was there,
nice.
Chance the Rapper, Tawana Taylor, Talib Kweli, fucking Stevie Wonder, Thundercat. I mean, it was insane. And it was, like, the week or two after the mass shooting, he did, like, this huge, like, blowout festival and it was free for all Dayton residents. And so, like, we all went down and just like partied our fucking asses off like in the middle of the street watching like Dave Chappelle and like everybody just like talking. Michael Che was there. It was,
Nice.
it was crazy. There was no stand up. Yeah, but it was just like, I mean, like the first act was Thundercat, which is like that's how you're starting this whole show. Yeah, like that's insane. Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. Like Kanye West had done a show that morning at like 9:30 in the morning. Like there's a little river over there, so we have this like concert space and stuff. So Kanye did like his Sunday gospel whatever church service thing.
Yeah.
So they did that, and then they went across the river, and the stuff started at 1 till like 10:30 at night. It was amazing. But yeah, Dave Chappelle, and now he's doing like coronavirus shows where he's having like Michelle Wolf has been on his show.
Time War was talking about that where it'll be like near Yellow Springs ish, right?
Yeah.
They have this outdoor venue or whatever.
Yeah,
it
there's
seems really
an
cool.
amphitheater there.
Yeah.
We're the same place they did the
847.
847.
Yeah.
846, yeah.
So.
Yeah, or whatever the number is. Yeah, and I think that's awesome because he has like Jon Stewart, Michelle Wolf, like all these people. He apparently my friend, her mom went to one, and he brought Louis C.K. and like, which is a lot to ask of a crowd, like and he did not do well because also like fuck Louis, who gives a shit, fuck him. But I thought it was hilarious because he was just like no one was into him, and so he was just like bombing, and then eventually he was like, oh man, maybe I should quit, and then apparently everyone started clapping.
Is this in Yellow Springs?
Yeah.
That's like
holy shit. That's an hour away.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, it's
that's really funny.
Yeah, because he still tours and stuff,
Yeah.
and like sells out like all the clubs and stuff wherever he goes. But so I think Chappelle's probably like, they'll just be excited, and then nobody was.
Yeah.
It was like, because her mom was like, the show came to like a screeching halt, like when he came, because he was like the last person, like he was the headliner.
Yeah.
Because it was like Chappelle, Michelle Wolf, and then like a couple other like Michael Che and some other people. And then it was Louis, and so everyone was like,
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Louis could probably like kill in every place in Dayton except for Yellow Springs.
Yeah, right.
Because he
exactly.
like the crowd that he now like attracts are people who are
not living in Yellow Springs.
Not living in Yellow Springs. So
or not people who travel there.
Yeah.
Or give a shit about like other people, stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, just stuff like that.
Yeah. Yellow Springs has a magical energy to people
It does.
like us. And then to what we call nosers, people who wear the mask with their nose hanging out. It has no energy whatsoever. But wow, that's crazy. I didn't realize he would be received so horribly there.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Like, I hate Louis and he's a terrible person, but like, I'm not gonna lie, like, I think he's like magnificently funny. But I mean, I haven't listened to him since all that news broke anyway. But like, so I would just assume that like people would be like, oh, bummer, and then they start hearing his material and they'd be like, we'll cut him some slack or whatever. But I'm glad that they held strong and they're like, nah, we're not, we're not taking part in this. Like, no matter what, I think that's cool,
So we're talking about a comedy event that happens over in Yellow Springs, but you also have one of your own.
Yeah.
Correct?
It's called the Super Dope Comedy Show and the Super Dope Comedy Festival.
Tell me about it.
So how it started, I started doing stand-up when I was 20, so it's been like, almost 7 years since I started doing stand-up. And when I was 20, like my first thing was like, I want to run a show because I want to get, like, when you first start doing stand-up, like, you start out as an open micer, and then if you get good enough, like, maybe people will notice you and put them on your shows, and then when you get to a point where, like, you'll start hosting at clubs if a club notices you and thinks you're good. So that means you'll go up first, do like 10 minutes of jokes, and then you'll bring up every comedian, right? So I was like, well, in order for me to get to that first step, I should practice hosting. So I want to actually like run my own show first by myself, so that way when my number does get called, then I can just, I have experience and it won't be a thing. So me and my buddy Dusty started this show in Sydney, Ohio, which is like an hour north of Dayton, at this like little bar. It was like a storyteller show. It was super fun, but it was just kind of like, once a month, and it was a pain in the ass to drive all that way. So after a few months, we bailed on it, and then I was like, okay, I want to start a show, but no one would let me start a show at their venue because I was 20. So like, I would ask like sex shops, like bars.
That's like us.
Yeah, like record stores. I was asking like anybody that had any type of space. I was like, can I run a show? And they all told me, you can go fuck yourself. You're 20. We're not going to trust you with any type of responsibility.
Wow.
And so I was like, So I literally had a meeting, like 4 meetings in one day, like just place after place after place, and they were like, no. And so I was like, God damn it. So I went over to my friend Brittany's apartment. It was like a 1-bedroom apartment, like not even 500 square feet, like tiny apartment. And so I was just complaining about it, and we were drinking, and she's like, why don't you just have the show here, like as a joke? And I was like, okay. And she's like, cool. So we just started running the show in like her tiny, like 400 square foot, 1-bedroom apartment. And like the first show had like 15 people there, which was kind of a lot for that little space. And then like we just did it every single month. The second Tuesday of every month is when I did it every single time. And then so I did it. I was like, it went on for like a year, and it like kind of became popular. And like for the 1-year anniversary, I had like Ryan Singer. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Name sounds familiar.
He opens for like Mark Maron and stuff. He's from Dayton. And then like I had like Dave Waite and like Jeff Tate, who opens for like Tom Segura and Stanhope and stuff like that.
I've heard that name.
Yeah, so I had all 3 of those dudes on my show.
Hell yeah.
For the year anniversary, and then it was like to the point where like everyone, the whole entire house was jam packed, and like you could not get through anywhere. Like everyone was standing, and there was like probably 15 or 20 people outside the apartment, just like windows open, door open, like listening and watching. Like it was so jammed.
That's awesome.
And so I was like, well, my friend was she moved to like Cambodia or something. So I was like, I guess I gotta find a new place. So then it kind of became a thing where like I would do the show at someone's house for like 4 or 5 months, and then pick a new location at somebody else's house, a different part of the town, and then do that for 4 or 5 months, blah blah blah. And then like, so I did this like for the 2-year anniversary. I had like, what was it? So it was like I had Mark Normand a couple times. I had Chris Allen, Kenny DeForest, Dave Waite. A bunch of people that like I just got super lucky. Like these people would basically tour, and like because I had with mutual friends with a bunch of people like on Facebook or whatever, I would like find their personal Facebook page and just shoot them a message like, hey, this is the day I'm doing a show, this is how much I can pay you, this is a set, blah blah blah, you can crash here, you got food, beer, weed, whatever you want, yada yada yada. So like I ran that show for like 4 years, and it kind of got to the point like by year 2, I was like, I want to do like a weekend at the club. Like I want to take my show that I do, because the one I kind of got ahead of myself.
Okay. My
show structure that I do is more like a traditional like New York City style show. So like you have a host do 8 to 10 minutes, and then you have a larger amount of people, but they all do shorter sets. So like everyone would do like an 8-minute set. So I'd have me host, and I'd have 5 other comedians do 8-minute sets, and then I'd have one headliner do 15 minutes. So the show is like under an hour and a half every single time, which is perfect for a show. So, but like a club show has like host, feature, headliner, and that show's like an hour and a half divvied up between those 3 people. So I was like, well, let me get as many weird, funny people on the show as I can at once. Make the headliner super short, so that way they have fun for the whole 15 minutes, and no one's really left kind of annoyed that someone went too long or anything like that. It's kind of just a good way to control the show. And I feel like the more diverse the show, like the more different personalities, the more different backgrounds you have on the show, the more well-rounded and the funnier the show is going to be. So that was my vibe. So I was like, well, let me do this. I want to see if I can do it at the club. And so there's a really great comedy club, the first place I ever did stand-up in Dayton, called Wiley's Comedy Club. You should check it out. It's the best. Cheapest tickets around. Super cool part of town too, where it's at. But so they were like, yeah, we'll give you a weekend, which like I was like 23, which like you don't get weekends at 23, you know what I mean? Like let alone a club lets you like book something that young. So like I was super stressed. I had 3.5 weeks to book the whole thing and like plan the whole thing, and I ended up booking like basically did 5 different shows. And so I was like, well, instead of making it the same 5 shows over the whole weekend, and you're gonna, that limits the amount of people that are gonna want to come and see your show, because if someone saw it on Friday, why would they want to come back and see it later Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or whatever? So I was like, well, why don't I just make each show a different set of comedians, so that way somebody could go to feasibly all 5 shows and not see anybody repeat material. So that's what I did. So it ended up being like 45 different comedians that I booked in 3 weeks, and like had great headliners and stuff. So it went really, really well the first year. It's like the most successful weekend the club had in like 9 months. So they just renewed it again for another year, and I did it the same year, and I had Caleb Sinan headline. He's a comic originally from Atlanta, but he lives in LA now. He's been on like Last Comic Standing. Nice. Bill Burr has a new comedy show on Comedy Central that he did. He has like sketches on Comedy Central and stuff like that.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, he's super fun. And he's got 2 great Conan sets. If you just need to watch like good comedy, check out Caleb Sinan. He's hilarious.
Yeah. Cool.
And I had him, and then like I did it again the next year. And I had Kenny DeForest, and that year it was like 6 different shows and like 55 different comedians. So each I did T-shirts and posters, and my buddy Grant does a poster every single year, and his style is really, really cool. But like honestly, his poster is what makes it so popular because we'll put it all over Dayton, and then like every time I put up his poster every year, I'm not exaggerating, there's these 4 shops that are like, oh, it's that time of year again. I'm always looking forward to the posters because the posters are so cool, and like they're just so like eye-catchingly cool that like I'm 100% not exaggerating when I say like 40% of the people that come to the show is because the poster looks so cool. Wow. Like that's really what it is.
That's sweet.
It's so striking and cool to look at, and then it's just like because if you get my thing is with like marketing, I feel like it's like guerrilla warfare a little bit. You know what I mean? It's like put it out there in their face really, really quick, and then kind of like back off, and then do it again. You know what I mean? So like our thing was like, okay, so like for a month before the show, we're gonna put up posters absolutely everywhere we can in Dayton, so people are just constantly looking at what's going on, like. Because like if you see a poster, in my opinion, like if you see a poster 5 times, you might look at it once. Like if you're walking into the coffee shop every single day, the same poster's there, you're not going to look at it. But over time, eventually you will because you've seen it a bunch. So that was my vibe. And then we would take like little like postcards for like the show, and I would stick them under people's like windshield wipers, or I'd go to bars and just like throw them in the air and like leave and stuff, so they would just like fall on the ground. So it'd just be like this poster of like these shows that are going everywhere. So just like stupid stuff like that, just like any weird thing. I would like literally go around to people like, hey, I got a show next week, just go around like to bars and stuff and just like buy people drinks and be like, here, come to the show, Just like any little tiny thing you can do to get someone interested. And so like every year the show's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and more successful. And like every time we do it, it's the best weekend the club's had in like a year.
Hell yeah. And what time of the year does that usually happen?
We always do it Veterans Day weekend.
Okay.
I don't know why. I think what had happened was that was the only weekend that they couldn't, because that's always like one of the worst weekends in comedy is the Veterans Day weekend, because like who cares, like no one really, for whatever reason, it's like it's near Thanksgiving, Christmas is right around the corner, so I feel like, and there was just Halloween, so I feel like people really aren't going out, and then they feel like, oh, we gotta salute whatever, so so we just do it there every year, and it's just been blowout. I don't know if we're doing it this year or not, which is kind of a bummer, but I don't know. Just because with the pandemic and everything, it's hard to say like for sure what's going to happen, So,
which leads to my next question. What has your experience been with digital comedy so far?
I've done it.
Yeah,
it's there. Yeah, no. I don't know. I think it's good. I think it's completely different from stand-up. I think it's an entirely different art form because with stand-up, it's like you rely on that interaction from the crowd and the comedian, like especially with my style, it's so conversational that like I cannot not have that feedback right away because it's part of what I do. So like I think it's really good and it's healthy to do, and I think it flexes a different muscle than like straight up stand-up does.
Yeah.
With that being said, I love stand-up, so I don't really care about the online shows. Like there have been some that I've watched that have been like done that have been like really, really fun, like really, really cool, but like I don't know, like at the end of the day I'm like, this is cool, this is fun, but it's not stand-up, it's not what I love. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just like, this is something that I can do, so I'll do them every once in a while, but it's not like, I don't know, it's just not really my cup of jizz or whatever, but but I think it's cool, and like I like seeing that people are like still super into it and like doing the shows. I think a lot less of them have been happening like the longer the pandemic's been going on, but
I've seen that downward trend too.
But I think it's cool, and I mean I've actually watched like a few of them that I wasn't even on. I was just like scrolling on Instagram and I was like, oh cool, a show, and so like I watch it, but I think it's great, but it's not really fun for me because like I was doing like this bit and to like my Tom Pluto, I don't know if you know him, he's a comedian.
I know.
He runs a really fun online show, But I was like doing it, and he was just like, "Yeah, you see, like it's almost like panels. So like you do a bit, and he just like gives you some feedback, and like it was fun. But I was just like, it's like this is.
It's like you're like a YouTube vlogger, basically, is what digital comedy is.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Mostly, is that's what it feels like?
Yeah, it feels like it's a manifesto more than like a stand-up.
Yeah.
And another thing.
Dude, people already do digital interviews, and like I did a few back in March and April and such. Like all of our episodes were all remote, and like that already happens, and it still sucked. Like I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
But hear me out. Here's my idea for the next wave of shows. You ready? So we're gonna take out all of the We're gonna take over all of the drive-in theaters. We're gonna put microphones in every car so that there's a speaker up on the stage, so that your laughs are being broadcast from your car to the comedian.
I like that. I feel like we should do a stand-up show with smoke signals where every joke is just like a smoke signal. Like, I think that'd be cool.
Morse code.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Everybody signs laughing. With
For my next bit, I'm going to be decoding World War II German messages. Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah. Laughs in German.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And binary
right.
comedy show. Fucking like, I liked how you put that one there. Yeah, that made it funny.
I put the one after the zero instead
that's
of before.
why it's funny.
Yeah, that's what.
Why are you laughing? Because it's 01001. That's why it's funny.
Oh, you think it'd be better with 10010?
Nice pause, bro.
Yeah. Oh man, I can imagine like comedians be like, "Do you mind if I give you like a punchline for that? Like, try 00111." See if that works. Say it like that. Yeah. I used to do this joke that I did it like 10 times, but it never worked the way that I wanted it to. So it was like, basically the idea of the joke was like, you know, a joke, all it is a sequence of words in the right order that are going to elicit a specific response, which is laughing, right? Like, that's what a joke is. I was like, but I think at a certain point, like, in the future, like, we're just going to evolve to a point where, like, a joke is just, like, a random sequences of noises and sounds, like, and then people will find that funny. So,
Surreal meme.
So I go, so the other day, and then I just start making these weird noises into the microphone, and then my buddy, Derek, who's like a really talented musician and like sound engineer guy, he would go behind like the PA and start like messing with the sounds, and like the reverb, so it'd be like, and he'd just make all these crazy noises, and I would end, and then no one would laugh because it's weird, and I go, too soon, and that would usually get him, but like it never really worked the way that I wanted it to. But it was like one of those.
Good, though.
Yeah, it was one of those books where I'm like, I'm so happy that I came up with this, but no one finds it funny. I also come up with a bit about how I tried to learn how to moonwalk for the bit. I could never really figure out how to do it well, so I gave up on the bit. But it's just like, you know, people like come up to you and like start saying like weird conspiratorial like whatever mumbo jumbo. You just want to leave, but you don't want to like be rude. Yeah. So I was like, that's why I was like, just start moonwalking away, because they're gonna be so impressed that you can moonwalk. They're not even gonna be mad that you're like leaving the conversation. And so then I just like give an example and then try to moonwalk. But it's, that was the fun one that I could never get to work because I couldn't moonwalk. And I like. You can ask my girlfriend, but there would be like days, like before shows for like 2 hours, I'd be practicing like moonwalking.
Really?
Because I was just trying to get it. It's hard, dude. It's really hard.
I don't think I've really tried to before, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it.
It's the process of it's not pretty hard. It's not hard really, like the process, but to like get it down like smooth, to look like you're not even trying to do it is pretty hard. It's because all you got to do is like you'll go up on like your toes, like you'll arch your foot like that, and then you'll basically kind of just lock this. I'll stand up and I'll show you. This will work for an audio only podcast, but like you'll arch your foot like that, and then you lock out this leg, and then you put all your weight on these two front toes, and then you just like you can't do it on carpet. But like you really just push your leg back like that until it's arched, and then you just switch and then pull it back. But like all the weight has to be on the opposite foot that you're not moving. So that's why you can't do it on carpet, because there's no slick whatever. But it's tough.
God, imagine Michael Jackson trying to do comedy.
That'd be fun. No, that would be terrible. Probably. It would be like really sad.
After every joke, he's like, he just. That's his laugh.
Because you ever see like professional athletes or whatever do stand up, like
No.
Rob Gronkowski.
No.
Oh my god,
That sounds god awful.
Yeah, I think that's when murder should be legal. You know, what I mean? Like stay in your lane. You know what I mean? Like, Gronkowski, you have $100 million for being really good at football, which I respect, but like you are not funny. Like he literally, I watched this. It's like on HBO or something, just this stupid Rob Gronkowski stand-up special, and so he would do like 5-10 minutes, and like eventually like tears off his shirt and like flexes, and the crowd's like ah,
Oh my god,
going crazy. And then eventually he's like doing a joke or whatever, and it's like not really funny. And then he tags it with "That's what she said," and the crowd goes crazy. And he's like, "Oh, I just thought of that," which I could tell that he told me. And like I was like, "No, you did just think of that." Like I could tell that you did, but that's not a good thing. Yeah.
Hey, Gab Street listeners. Today's episode is sponsored by the three-piece indie pop band, The Manatee Room. Their debut single, Pastel, released on all major streaming platforms on July 17th. Here's a little sample of their track, and if you want more, head to the description of this episode where you'll find a link to find the full song. The funds from this sponsorship went straight to the Columbus Creatives COVID Grant, which you will hear more about momentarily. If you've listened to Gab Street in the past, you know that the show is dedicated to showing off awesome Columbus culture. Now we're putting not only our voices forward, but a helping hand. Through the summer of 2020, Gab Street will be collaborating with Ravenshood Music Group to create the Columbus Creatives COVID Grant. This grant is a fundraising initiative aimed toward helping creatives in Columbus who have been impacted financially by the COVID crisis. We will be accepting applications through Saturday, August 15th, and we will be accepting funds through August 31st. Voting will take place during those 16 days. You can find links to the donation pages and how you can apply in the description of this episode. Now back to the show. Oh, holy shit. There's one episode of not Last Comic Standing. This Is Not Happening. If you haven't watched it, it's very funny. Ari Shaffir does it? That's right. That asshole. And then...
who's the new guy that does it? He's an amazing comedian.
He is very funny. I forget his name. Something, Roy Wood Jr.
Yeah, Roy Wood Jr. So, he's fucking hilarious. He's very
funny. Do you remember the episode where Andrew WK came on?
Yeah. The party episode.
Cafe Wa. Yeah. Bro, that shit is garbage.
Yeah, or have you seen the one with, who's the Epic Mealtime?
Oh, yeah, Harley
Mortensen.
Yeah.
No, I didn't see that one.
Oh, it's terrible.
Oh, man.
You should watch it. It's funny. Oh, there's like, those are the bad ones, but there's like hundreds, or not hundreds, but there's dozens and dozens of really, really great ones.
It's like my favorite comedy show, personally.
Yeah. I think that one's great. The TJ Miller one's amazing.
Yes.
Tom Segura's is really funny. Sean Patton's is great. All of Joey Diaz's are hilarious.
Joey Diaz is a legend, dude. Oh my god.
I don't like Joe Rogan, but I think his Ambien one is really, really funny.
I have never enjoyed... The only Joe Rogan stand-up I've ever enjoyed is his latest special. Everything else I've heard from him has been just absolute trash.
Yeah, I tried. I really tried. I thought it was because I was dumb, but I was like, I think it's actually that I'm not dumb, and that's
exactly.
I mean, like, actually,
it's knucklehead shit.
It's because he's too much of like a chimpanzee. Like that's literally the reason. Like he's just like, I don't know.
Yeah. It's something. It's very like caveman comedy almost. But
exactly.
It's like, we're on a rock curling through space. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know.
That's so crazy. Have you ever done DMT?
No, because you scared me off of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, that's the only reason why I haven't done DMT. Because Joe Rogan did a documentary about DMT, and I was like, I don't think I want to do DMT.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that yet.
No.
That sounds like something I need to watch.
It used to be on Netflix years ago. I don't know if it still is, but that's when, like, you guys might be a little too young for this, not to be like, I'm so much older, but there was a time in American culture where like smoking weed was cool. I don't know, but like it was like underground. There's all these like weird like weed culture. So there was all these like weird documentaries that would come out. They're like pro weed and stuff and like pro drugs. And so this was like 2010 or 11. And he came up with like DMT documentary, and it was like everybody's like, "Did you watch that DMT documentary with Joe Rogan?" And I did, but I was like, I'm never gonna do DMT.
It's like a Vice documentary, I guess. Like back when Vice did like cannibal warlord shit.
Yeah. I don't think it was that cool though, because Vice. Yeah, but it's pretty interesting, I guess.
The latest Vice thing I've watched is "Fuck That's Delicious."
Yeah.
Oh, with
That's a good one.
Action Bronson.
Yeah.
It's like my favorite like background
so
noise
funny.
show ever.
Yeah.
Have you seen his Ancient Alien show on YouTube?
No.
What?
Oh, dude, he just gets
Action Bronson?
Yeah, he just gets crazy stoned and
Are you
watches.
serious?
Yeah.
That sounds
And
like
he has
something
his
I need to be
buddies
watching
come on.
right
He'll like
now.
make food for him too. It's really funny. If you just like whatever Action Bronson's doing because he's crazy, like you'll love that show because he just like is like smoking these like. He has like a snake dab, and so he's just like dropping it in. He's like ripping it. He's like, the aliens built the pyramids because, and he has this huge exhale, and you're like, this is the best.
I love that, man. I'm going to reveal something on this episode today that has not been discussed before. So, you're welcome. But because we just talked about the Fuck That's Delicious with Action Bronson. Gab Street is actually planning on doing a show called Gab Street Eats. We're going to be doing a Fuck That's Delicious style show, full production and everything, with guests similar to what we do already with the show, but it's like pared down with editing and such.
Yes.
We're going to be going around to restaurants like Lindy's, Schmidt's, Woodbury over in downtown, and we're just going to be interviewing people and reviewing food and stuff. So we're going to try and get as many people from as many different backgrounds involved as possible. And anyone and everyone is welcome to reach out to us to see how they want to be involved, because we want to get everybody involved in the production and on being on the actual show. So please reach out to us. We will need both all of the help and the talent we can get.
Well, if you need a low-key, thick vegetarian redhead, let me know.
Are we ready? We're ready, man.
Yeah, I'll help you out.
Hell yeah, man! We'll do a Porsche special.
Yeah.
That sounds
Slam
good.
some Eden burgers. Or
Yes.
Edenburger's tight.
I
I went to
Edenburger.
Porsche's one time, and then I started making fun of the anti-vaxxers, and apparently the lady that owns it's an anti-vaxxer. So I was
Yeah.
like, oh,
There's
okay.
like a Venn diagram of like anti-vaxxers and vegans. There's like a little bit of like
God.
overlap.
Oh, geez,
I'm
man.
so sorry.
Yeah, I remember going in there like a year ago and seeing just this. Damn it! I wanted to have her on the show. I can't now. If she hears this, she's gonna be like, "Oh shit, I can't be on here."
Her food's good.
The
Her
food's
opinions
delicious.
are
Yeah.
stupid, but her food's delicious.
Detach the art, from the personality.
Yeah, right,
The,
exactly.
vegan
We still
nachos, man.
Yeah. We still like Pablo Picasso's paintings. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Well, if you walk up to the cash register in line at Porsche's, there's like signage about not vaccinating, like sitting like on the glass window.
Just blows my mind.
I was just like, okay,
It's like, how can you like push healthy food and be like, nah, don't get healthy. Like, what?
That's like simply what it is.
Yeah, it's like I don't understand. It's like, motherfucker, you're vaccinated. The lady who owns it's vaccinated.
dear God, man, this world's nuts.
It's
There's been some stuff that I've been seeing recently where it's like, the world isn't getting worse, just the veil of reality is being taken off. And I was like, yeah, probably. I don't know. I don't care.
I mean, we're technically like the least violent time in human history.
Yes. Did you read the Steven Pinker book? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, what's it called? God.
Better Angels of Our Nature, I think is what it's called.
No, that's not the one that I've
I
read.
have it right here. Anyway, I got an A on it for talking about it in the class discussion. So,
Hell yeah! Congratulations. What's your
thanks, bro.
GPA? No.
We're talking about that. If you want.
Yeah.
But we technically are in the least violent portion of human history,
Yes, we
but
are.
at the same time, we're in like the most transparent portion of human history, where people are just like, that thing happened, now everyone knows.
Yeah. Well, it's also like not even like intentional transparency. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's just like we
Access to
all,
information.
yeah, we all
Yeah.
have access to this information. So I think that's what's like. I think technology has advanced a little bit faster than human intellect has. I mean,
Agreed.
but
Idiocracy.
yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
But I also feel like, for me, I'm not a computer person. Like, I don't fuck with. That's not my thing. But everyone else my age is like super fluent in. So it's like, okay, well, with each generation, like you're more and more technologically literate. You know what I mean? So like, millennials are very technologically literate. You motherfuckers invented the computer, for as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, I didn't build that. I had somebody else build that for me. I'm not going to claim to be part of that movement. Sorry.
But I think the crisis is becoming people don't know what to do with all this new information so quickly, because it is coming in so fast, and there are people who are like, because like sometimes I feel like this new information isn't just like rock you, but it also like challenges your entire worldview, and I think, especially for people that tend to be older, I think that huge shock to their worldview is a little bit harder to digest than if someone was like a little bit younger that's like not so entrenched in that worldview. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
But that's my armchair philosophy about it. So there's no true information that went into that opinion. It's just something I came up with.
Well, with the worse shit gets, what we can always look forward to is better tweets.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to, here, congratulations, first of all, because Dan Sebree is officially the guest we've had on the show with the best Twitter account. So I just want to put that out there. The plaque is on its way. It's in the mail. It was stopped by a train derailment, but it's on its way. Just a slight delay. USPS is okay, don't worry. And at the Gab Street Anniversary number 2 coming in February, you can see those awards arriving. So go check out his Twitter. Seriously, it's great.
Dan Sebree. What was your favorite one, if you don't mind me asking?
Your latest one was pretty funny about the Halloween store. But my boyfriend really liked that one. But for a revolution, this one is pretty chill. I enjoyed that because like now Twitter's the guillotine.
Yeah.
Like I wish we had the actual one, but
yeah, right. Yeah.
Like we're in the next best thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So
that's like what's funny about Twitter is like I was watching this documentary and it was over like ancient Greek philosophers, and they would just stand and just start yelling their philosophies. Like I think that's what Twitter is now. like the biggest like the most profound things just come off this site, and it looks like bullshit because it's like 100 words, like 100 characters, whatever it is.
Yeah, 140. I think.
140 characters, but it's like that's where you find like modern day philosophy. It's not in fucking
Didn't it used
Princeton
to be
or
less?
Harvard.
Didn't they used to have
Yeah.
shorter?
Now it's
when
280, and it used to be 140.
Oh, okay.
And that's why I started getting on Twitter, because I was like, you have a format to write a joke, so you just have to do it quickly. So, but yeah, I think you're right. There's been like, I'll read like Twitter threads and be like, this is the most interesting thing I've ever read in my entire life. This is so poignant. And then you like to read the very next thing, and you're like, this is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever read. I can't believe someone can legally put that on the internet. It's so stupid.
Who's our modern Robespierre? Who do you think? Who's the one that's like using the guillotine so much that they're gonna get it themselves? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, it can almost be like just one like giant Twitter cloud. Like it's not just one person. It's just like
there are a lot of Robespierres
like, striking people down.
Yeah, this is true.
And it's like every once in a while, like it'll come out like this one particular like guillotiner, I guess, like kissed like some 16-year-old and then he's gone now.
Yeah,
but like.
I feel like anybody that makes a point of calling out other people's behavior, like that's all that they do on social media, I'm like, something you did you don't want us to know about, it's going to come out. I feel like it's some of that. Because it wasn't there, I can't remember what it was. It was like a 4chan thing, but somebody was like, some guy was like, you got to respect women, yada, you know, like the whole like, treating like women like human beings is like, good, which is like, yeah, of course it is. Like, it's just implied, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, congratulations there, champ. You did a hell of a job being not a piece of shit. But yeah, it's like, but then some guy was like, it was like on 4chan or Reddit or something, and it was like, that's all that he did was like talk about like toxic masculinity, which is a real thing that needs to be talked about. I'm not saying it doesn't.
Correct.
But it turns out he was like a rapist or a pedophile or something. And it's like, yeah, of course, you know, why would you? Why, yeah, like...
Sounds about right.
Yeah, because like obviously you have to. It's insane to me that we do have to say certain things like anti-Semitism is unacceptable, things like that. Like you can't. It's amazing you even have to like take a stance on that kind of a thing. But it's also if you're gonna make a point to be like, this is my stance on this. And it's like, why are you making it known? Like you can be an ally without being a fucking virtue signaling jackass. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's been a lot of people coming out of the woodwork in a positive way, especially in Columbus. Like, quick shout out to the people from Matter News, Cassie Young and all of them. Like, they've been doing a fantastic job reporting like everything happening with protests, and like they're on the ground, like in there, like between the two sides and everything. Like it's nuts. So they're also kind of the last bastion for true journalism. So kind of just like go donate them $1 million. Or else we all need to move to Mars real quick. Yeah. But like, yeah, go support them. So quick shout out there. But also, quick aside, thank you everyone who's been supporting the CCCG so far. We've been doing a fundraiser for people, creatives who've been affected by COVID.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thank you.
You guys have given out loans and stuff, or
we've raised about $2,000, and $500 is going to 4 people at the end of the summer.
Okay.
So if you have not heard about that, you still have time to apply. This episode's coming out. I'm not going to check that right now because we're recording it. But whenever this comes out, there's probably still time. So we're taking money through the end of August, and we're taking applications through August 15th. So
that's awesome.
Thank you. So 4 people will be... So it'll be going to the public vote. We're approving applications, and then the 4 people with the most votes overall will be receiving $500 each. So go check that out.
So to apply, you have to like basically send in like a portfolio, like, hey, this is what I do.
Essentially,
cool, that's awesome. Yeah, if you guys are losing money and not getting gigs, you should for sure do that shit. Holy cow, that's awesome, guys.
And every $500 that's donated is another person receiving $500. So, yeah.
The more money, the more people that get help. That's awesome.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Good on you guys. That's great.
Thank you. Yeah. You'll also hear a message about that, like, pre-recorded, so whatever. But just so you actually hear about it. Anyway, Daniel.
Okay, Mom.
What are some stories from the best or worst nights of your career?
So the best ones, this is kind of sad, but the best nights, it's always relative. Best so far, right? So like, especially with comedy, you can have like, so like, I can't remember, like, there's been so many shows that I've done that have just been absolutely fun and just the best things to do. But like, you kind of, there's way more good times than there are ever, in my opinion, in my experience at least, like bad times. So like there's been a few times I've bombed so bad, but like that pales in comparison to the times that like I had a lot of fun, I got to spend some time with my friends, I did well, blah blah blah. But the times that are really bad, those do stick out. So like there was Mother's Day weekend. I was opening for Zainab Johnson, and the middle, so the feature act was this guy, Miguel Dalmau. And he's hilarious, and I've known him for a long time, so I was like so excited. I was like, this is cool. I've wanted to work with Zainab forever. And like the Dayton Funny Bone is at like the Green, which is basically the outdoor, like Easton essentially, but smaller in Dayton. And so like every time I get booked, it's literally like, there's a weird liberal comedian on, let's get Dan because like, it'll mesh, you know. So I was like, cool. And so I was like super excited to open for Zainab. I was so hyped. It was like, oh my god. It was a person of color. It was a woman. And then the middle wasn't a white person. And I was like, this is great because I love doing more interesting, unique shows. And so basically, how you like structure a set, especially when you're hosting. Like when you're hosting, your jokes don't necessarily matter, but like the vibe that you set's the most important thing because the show's not about you.
Yeah,
you're there to introduce the show to the crowd. That's your whole vibe, right? But like how you structure like your jokes in a hosting set's like, I'm not going to go, like, I have bits that are like 4, 5, 6 minutes long. It's like, okay, well, I'm not going to do a 6-minute joke in a 10-minute set. That requires a lot of them to, like, get on board. And if it doesn't go well, then that's, you know, you can't back out of a 6-minute joke. So, like, you really want to do, like, something quick that's going to get them on your side, that's not too offensive, not too whatever, just, like, straightforward to it. So I'm like, I'll do this one. And this one always works. So, like, my first joke Thursday night, didn't work. I was like, weird. This one always works, but I'll get him with this next one because this is like my backup one just in case that one doesn't work, whatever. And I hit him with that one, and I'm getting like crickets. I'm like, well, that's not good. So let me get, so like you start with like the most accessible, and then like most accessible, and then you like go longer and longer, and then you do stuff that's less accessible like towards the end because they're already buying into what you're doing. So I was just doing all these jokes, and like none of them worked. So I was like, but I only did 10 minutes, so I was like, whatever, it's Thursday, there's usually one or two nights that are just hiccups in the show, and then you kind of hit your stride, and then you're good. So then Friday early show comes up, and like I did okay, not great, not good by any means, but like fine. Like it wasn't enough to be like, oh my god, rethink everything, right? So like after that show, I'm like, that's still not right. So I'm like changing some stuff up, and then the Friday late show goes on. And I'm like, okay, I've already had 2 shows, I'm vibing with the headliner and the feature, like I got my set figured out, I am good to go, and I bombed so hard, like nobody laughs. I'm like, okay, all right, well it's not, the show's not about me, so let's bring on the, so keep it going. And then like Friday, so I was supposed to work on Saturday, and I called, and I was like, I can't come in. I was like, I have to focus on these jokes, like I gotta figure something out. So I was like writing all day. I met up with the comedians, and I was like, what if I do this? Like really like trying super hard to like get this right. And so then like Saturday early show comes on, and I'm nervous as hell, but I'm like, all right, I've had 3 bad shows. That's okay. That stuff happens. It's a new day. It's Saturday. No big thing. Everyone's going to be having a good time. We'll do this. Saturday early show. Bomb. Super hard. Like not a single laugh. Like at all. And I'm just like, at this point I'm like, what is happening? Like, should I even be doing stand-up? I was like, I'm bombing so hard. And the other comedians are killing. Like they're doing great, but they just like do not like me whatsoever. And so like Saturday late show, I'm just like, it's the last one of the night. I just got to get through this, and then I have tomorrow off. I can rest, relax, try and figure it out. And so I'm like, all right, let's start. And I'm like bringing the energy. I start with my first joke, nothing. I'm like, God, it's not good. Second joke, nothing. Get down to like my 6th joke, and I've gotten 0 laughs, other than times where I've been like, that's weird because that's funny. Like something like that, just like a little aside, And so, but even that was like little chuckles, like it wasn't anything substantial. And then I was like, I had one more joke, and I was just like, all right, this is my last joke. And then some dude in the back stands up and goes, thank fucking God. And like my heart broke in half. I was just like, I was about to cry, and like I snapped. This is at the beginning of the show, the very beginning of the show, mind you. So I put my foot on the base of the microphone, and I stomp on it, and then it leans forward, and I grab it, and I like point it, and I was like, talk all the shit you want to, motherfucker. Like from the beginning of the show, I'm calling this dude a motherfucker. And I was like, this paid my rent this month. And then I got a standing ovation after that, and then I did my last joke, and it bombed. I was like, are you kidding me? I was just like, what? And so I go home, and I'm like a mess. I'm like, why should I even be doing stand-up? Like, I've been doing it like 2.5, 3 years at that point. I was like, I should be better than this. Like, I shouldn't be going. I've been hosting for forever. Like, for 2 years. So I was like, I shouldn't go up there and just eat shit 5 shows in a row. So, like, honestly, like, at this point, like, I cried a bunch. I was like a mess. And then I was talking to my partner, and I was like, I don't know. She was like, just get through this one show. Don't make any decisions. Because I was like gonna quit. She was like, just don't make any decisions right now. Just like do the last show. No, it was on Mother's Day, and so I was like, and I was raised by a single mom, so Mother's Day is like our Christmas, you know what I mean? So like, hung out with my mom all day. That was like really nice and rejuvenating. Saw my family, and then I like went to the show, and I was just like, I get to the show, and I'm just like sitting in the green room. I was just like this, and then like the feature and the headliner just like put their hands on my shoulder, like, you're really funny, you'll get it. And I was like, I don't think so. Just like not believing in myself like at all. It's like your crowd has hated me the whole weekend. I don't know what I'm supposed to, So like I like they start the show and they make the whole to do about it, and so like I kind of like saunter on stage, and I like half-heartedly like delivered my first joke, and they like applause break, and I was like, what? And so then I just like I'm like, so I got applause break on the first joke, and I was like, oh okay, I'm actually gonna like give it, and I got like 6.5 applause breaks, and I was like, are you fucking kidding? So then I was like, okay, I'm not gonna quit. So that's the thing, is that's what I'm talking about. Like you can have literally 5 horrible shows. You have one good one. All of those shows didn't exist. That's the and that was honestly like talk about like one of the best. Like that was one of the best. Not only because it like felt good to do, but it's also like I needed it in that moment. Like I needed to do well for a totally different crowd of people that like I needed that, to keep going and just to not lose my mind. And so that was probably like the best, quote unquote, the best show because I needed it really bad at that time.
You ever tried turning it off and on again? Essentially.
I have tried. There have been times I'm like, what's wrong?
I mean, that's kind of what happened.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah, well, there'll be times where like I'll start hot and then like I'll like get confident, and then like if you're confident you're gonna do things that you wouldn't necessarily do if you're not as confident, so you're more likely to make stupid mistakes because you feel like I'm impervious to whatever. So there have been times where that's kind of happened where like not taking things too far, but just like you riff a little bit and then it ends up not going anywhere, and you're like, I just wasted time and you didn't find it charming or funny, so like what was the point of it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there have been times where I've been on stage where I'm like, I thought you guys have liked me a bunch in the beginning, but the more that I talk, the less that you like me. And then people are like, yeah, that's not bad. But then every joke I would do, they would love. But if it's like the riffing, they're like, no, just stick to the things that work. But there are other times where like I'll do jokes and like they could like, cool, whatever. But then anytime I'm riffing, they're like, yeah, that's what we prefer. We prefer you to be like more relaxed or whatever. But
more candid. Yeah.
Yeah, and my style is like super conversational anyway, so it doesn't really feel like, and then I fucked my girlfriend. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like any of that like kind of robotic. It's like very, very casual. I don't think I'm a great writer or whatever, but like the one thing that I do know I'm good at that people consistently compliment me on is like my comfortability on stage and my presence, because it's just like my presence isn't necessarily like bam in your face, but like I'm so confident on stage, and like the way that I like to do comedy, it's like I can be chill and people will be like listening, you know what I mean? So like that's what I mean with like comfortability on stage. Like stage, off stage, it's really not a difference in like how comfortable I am, really,
That's cool. Yeah, the one time I saw you perform back in February, I think, it was at Rambling House.
Oh, yeah.
You were on that show with Amber and Ty.
Yeah.
Shit kicked ass, man. That was great.
Thank you so much.
That was one of those more chill vibe shows where you were super conversational and like the riff game was on it.
Yeah.
So I do think if you've seen him and he bombed whenever, it happens. The show it kills. So just go to another one.
Yeah,
I swear.
I did this show at the People's Mansion. I think it was hot. I think so. I think it was like the beginning of spring or something. And like I was in a basement and like everyone was bombing, and like so I like just went up, was doing my thing, and I was
Is that Sam Rothstein's thing? Are you talking about the fucking Crystal Palace?
Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah. Okay. So I went up and like most people were bombing. Like it wasn't like it was fun, but like there was a lot of other things going on. So
I freaked out at that show.
Yeah.
I got claustrophobic and left.
Oh really?
That's how packed it was.
I believe it. It was crazy. But so eventually we were like, I just went up and did it, and like I wasn't doing well. Like I wasn't doing. Everyone was doing like. I would say I was doing as bad, if not slightly better, than everybody else. But no one was doing well, so it was still like I was still bombing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like I'm on stage and I'm like blah blah blah, and I'm just like I'm not doing so hot, and the crowd like gets super sympathetic and it's like, no, you're doing great, like don't give up. I was like, I didn't say I was gonna stop. I was like I don't care that I'm not doing well. Like I just did great last night. Like this is part of it. Like. And then people started feeling bad for me. I was like, I don't want your pity. I'm like, I'm going to keep doing this, like, no matter what. Like, I'll get you. But, like, I don't, like, this is really funny. And they're like, I was like, I've been doing this for so long. Like, this does not mean anything. I'd rather it be going way better than this. Let's be real. But, like, I was like, no, it's not. I'm not upset at all about it, This is really funny to be like, oh, is he okay? I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just sweaty.
I feel like a lot of people that would have been at Crystal Palace have not been exposed to, like... The comedy that they've heard about is, like, the Louis comedy or, like, the really blue comedy where it's just not palatable to people who accept human rights, in general. And then you'll see somebody like you or Amber or Ty who does jokes that are funny and don't have to be racist or xenophobic.
Yeah.
And then...
Wait, you're saying you don't have to be like that?
What? What have I been doing the rest of this podcast? No, I'm just kidding.
Damn, I need to rethink a lot of
But, when it comes to that, they might not be as... Well, when it comes to comedy that is not like that and still done well, people aren't as versed in the conventions, I guess, of a show. I'm making this up on the fly. It's total bullshit. But they might not know that like that's part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because I think a lot of the time, like whenever I host, I explain how the show works, because a lot of people have never been to a comedy show before. So I think there is that. And I think you're also right where, like, Louis, you're taking even further, like, people like Kevin Hart, who are the biggest comedians? Amy Schumer, Kevin Hart, like, people like that are, like, playing arenas. Like, a lot of people, that's most people's exposure to stand-up comedy. So when you're seeing people perform in, like, sports arenas or, like, these giant theaters, like, you kind of assume that that's going to be what comedy is. And then when you get it, it's, like, a dimly lit room, like, the comedians, one might be terrible, the next one might be the best comedian you've ever heard of, the next one might be mediocre, but it's not like that. So I think there is kind of a disconnect. And also when you're talking about like Crystal Palace, there's a bunch of young people getting fucked up on a bunch of drugs and drinking, which is tight, and I'm all about it.
Exactly,
but,
yeah.
you know, if you go into a stand-up show, like, and you're turnt or whatever, like, yeah, certain, like, comedy's kind of a boring art form compared to, like, live music, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You can have, like, a Robin Williams type person, but, like, that's so far and few between. Like, you're not going to get a fucking show every single time, you know what I mean? So, like, you know, it's not like you're going to go fucking see, like, if you're going to go see, like, a band or whatever, it's like there's energy in the room. You can feel it. Doesn't matter if you're, like, you don't even have to be paying attention to what they're doing on stage or the music. You can just be having a good time. With stand-up, it's like, you can do that, but you're ruining it for everybody else.
Whereas, like, and also, you know, when you're a turn or whatever, you know, like, when someone says, like, a punchline, like, I think you would think, like, what? Like, you don't necessarily know, like, what's going on. So, like, you know, the comedian will look at you, and you'll just be like, I don't understand what's happening. Like, I'd rather be, like, just, like, jumping up and down to, like, drums.
Right, and, like, dancing.
Than some person trying to convince me that, like, even this fart joke is funny at all.
Yeah, right. And there is a weird thing where it's, like, sometimes, not all the time, very rarely, but, like, I feel like sometimes the crowd almost gets competitive with the comedian. They're like, oh, so you think you're funny, huh? And then they'll, like, cross their arms and be like, or someone will heckle, be thinking, because, like, I'm funny, too. Or, like, the crowd's, like, being like, okay, you're funny, we'll prove it. You know what I mean? That doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes you can, like, totally tell that that's what is going on. And I feel like at Crystal Palace, I got a little bit of that. I was like, yeah, I was kind of like a couple dudes crossed their arms. And then dudes started, like, not, like, maliciously heckling me, but just, like, heckling, which I love that, so I don't really care. So I was like, this is great, because I don't have to do my jokes. I can just talk to you guys. This is awesome. All burns the same amount of time. So
I feel like a good heckle is like...
Oh, I love it, because, like, I love jokes. Like, I love jokes. I love joke structure. I love joke theory. I love all that stuff. But, like, you know, there'll be certain jokes that I do, like, I've done 100, 200 times just because that's how jokes work. You have to do them over and over again. So, like, if someone heckles you, if it's malicious, they're just being dickheads, right? And they can go fuck themselves. But if someone that heckles you, a lot of the time it's just like, I want to be part of this. I want to add into the show. And so for me, I'm like, well, that's not anything malicious. I'm not going to get mad about that. But but why don't we engage? Because I'm also very conversational and super chill on stage. So, like, I don't mind if we want to talk, because if we can get something funny out of it, that's just as good as a joke to me. But it's better because everyone in the crowd's, like, present in that moment, experiencing it in real time with you. So, like, the laugh you can get out of, like, a crowd work or something like that, it's going to be that much better than, like, a straight up joke. You know what I mean? So, and it's hard. Crowd work's hard and stuff like that. So any opportunity I can get to do it, to hopefully get better at it, I'm super about it. So. There have been times I've gone on stage and I'm like, if you guys feel like yelling, go for it. Let's talk.
Shout out to Adam Hemmel real quick. He was on episode 57, but why do I remember these numbers? But at the show that I saw you at, he was, like, super vocal.
Is this the handlebar mustache guy?
Yes. Yeah. Whenever somebody would, like, a comedian on stage would say an opinion that was, like, generally accepted, he'd be like, yeah! Like, he would just, you go! Yeah. They'd be like, thanks, man. Like, I appreciate the energy, dude. Like, that is Adam Hemmel. If you haven't listened to that episode, one of the coolest dudes in the city, for real. Go back and listen to it. But, yeah, he's a blast at comedy shows.
I roasted his ass pretty good at that show. I can't remember what I said.
I don't remember either, but I remember, like...
It was mean, I remember. But it was funny, you know. I remember that, and then I remember... Even he was like... I couldn't remember what it was.
I remember the laugh mixed with the
I really wish I remember what it... Cause it something stupid. I wish I remembered. Oh well.
my favorite instance of a crowd interaction, this wasn't a crowd work show at all. This is actually one of Louis' specials, so forgive me. But one of my favorite moments of crowd interaction has been when Louis made the joke about, like, what year is it? Like, the Christians won. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh...
That joke's so fucking good.
Like, what happened in the year 0?
Yeah,
and then he
I remember
puts
that.
out his mic and somebody in the audience just yells, Christ! Like, super loudly. He's like, yeah, you're right, Christ! I love that. It's not really translating to the podcast, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Good crowd work can just be magical. You know?
Yeah.
So-
Like, are you familiar with Bill Burr?
Yes.
Okay, so he's got some problematic blah, blah, blah. A little liberal disclaimer.
Yes. No, I agree he does, yeah.
But I think what's so great about Bill and what he does is because if you're hearing what he says, it's offensive.
Yeah.
But if you're listening to what he says, it's way less offensive. But he's counting on you to not make that distinction. So what he does is he takes, like, I saw this in person where he said something that, hearing it sounds problematic if you're not actually listening to what he's saying. But then he had this woman heckle him. And so, like, but the whole crowd was on her side. And I don't remember what he said, but he basically, within 10 seconds, took what she said and flipped it around, and you could physically feel the momentum shift in the room. The whole crowd against him versus him, like, all back at the crowd, and then this huge laughter erupts, and it was because of crowd work. Like, that's literally, like, and Bill Burr is the best crowd work comedian of all time because he will purposely say things to make you not like him and downright hate him and want him to leave, and then in a snap of his fingers he's gonna flip it on you, and that's like crowd control, like perfect. Or ever seen Joey Diaz like live? That dude is crazy. Like he also problematic, but like you know, like his comedy. Like when I saw him, it really felt like we were like sparring. He kept just like landing sucker punches because it was like he would come at you so fast, like you would just be laughing and you'd miss like 5 punchlines. But then by the time you like catch your breath and tune back in, he's got more punchlines, and you're just like, oh my god, it's just like a nonstop, relentless.
Do you think he writes? Do you think Joey Diaz writes anything?
Yeah.
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 It feels like he doesn't. Like he's that good.
I think what happens, like,
Cocksucker.
Yeah. Poor little Cuban girl. You fucked that girl up.
You ever punched a nun?
Santa Maria.
Yes.
Oh man. Yeah, I think he does, like, I think he writes out like this is the story, and then I think he like goes out and like does it like a comedic version, and then just like repeats it, and like I think there's some level of stream of consciousness to him, but I don't think because he talks about writing and stuff. So
Okay. Yeah.
I think it's more of like, here's my idea, and then goes on stage and does it.
Let me tell you something, Joe.
Yeah, let me tell you something, Joe Rogan, you fucking cocksucker. Fucking love Joey Diaz. He's a psycho.
If once in my life I can get him to say, "Let me tell you something, Corey Leo," I will allow myself to die happy. Like, I'll be good. You know, like I've achieved everything I've needed to at that point. Or I could just have Jake do it.
If I could, I could do his voice. If that would be like if there was a genie, I'd like make him like get Joey Diaz's voice, put him in like my neck.
Oh man,
Like do that for a fucking day.
all you have to do is be addicted to cocaine for 30
Yeah,
exactly.
That's
Yeah.
like he did like on his podcast. Like he's really eloquent on like his latest like 3 podcast episodes, and he was talking about like cocaine up his nose for doing COVID tests and shit. It's fucking crazy.
Show a rock up there.
Like if any comedian would be lucky just to like throw in. Like, just talking about going to the grocery store, just throw in a few, like, cocksuckers and, like, get laughs. Like, that's all he has to do.
Oh, man, I fucking love him.
Well, some of the challenges that Joey Diaz has had to come over is rocks in the nostrils.
Yeah.
But what are some of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome as a comedian?
Well, I mean, obviously, besides, like, the pandemic and not doing stand-up for almost 4 months, which is a nightmare. But,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that for a lot of creative people, I think it's, like, the self-scrutiny and the motivation, you know what I mean? Like, especially, I mean, it's very easy to compare yourself to other people, especially in comedy, especially people that you started with that, like, you know, And everyone's process is a little different. So I know I've been like, my friend Blake Hammond, who's I'm not excited, like one of the funniest people I've ever met. We started around the same time. And like, it used to be that like, Blake was always good. Like we all thought he was funny, but like, he would have some rough sets, back and forth, blah, blah, blah. But then he just like, something happened where like, everything he writes is like a fucking gold mine, and he's so funny, and I'm like so proud to be his friend and like just to see him succeed. But at the same time, I'm proud of him and I'm happy for him. But at the same time, it's like, fuck, why can't I? You know what I mean? Like you kind of can't help but compare yourself to these people, and so I think that's a huge challenge. Is like be like, no. Blake is as good as he is because he works super hard and he's super, super talented, and the way that he does things is a little bit different. And that doesn't mean I'm not talented and I'm not funny. It just means that we're going things at a different pace. And that's fine. And that's how things work all the time. Everyone grows differently. Everyone's art changes at a different rate. Like everything is always, So I think trying not to compare yourself, I think is a big, for me at least, is a problem, like that I work on. But also like staying motivated too, because there'll be times where you work on it. Like I was working on, before the COVID happened, I was working for a month straight on one 6-minute bit, and like I was getting it closer like every time I did it, but it was still taking a long time, and I was like, man, should I just give up on this bit, or should I like really keep so I think part of it's like not giving up on things, and like kind of just staying motivated when like you're not getting the bookings that you want, your jokes aren't coming out the right way that you want, stuff like that. I think it's just like kind of pushing through all of like the bullshit struggle or whatever, just like the normal, like it's just like with any job, like, oh fuck, how am I gonna get better at this, stuff like that. So I think everyone's kind of their own worst enemy, especially you guys are creative, clearly, yeah. Right? So like you've been working on a project and you're just like, I can't think of how, like I have the end of it, I have the beginning, but there's this like one little thing I need to bridge over to make those two connect, and I can't figure that out, and that'll drive you crazy. And I think it's little things like that, like kind of having to let go and be like, okay, we can figure this part out later. We have this, we can try and bridge this somehow, but we have the meat of what we need to do, so we'll figure that out, just like little stuff like that. And the balance of like work-life, relationship stuff. It's just like normal, everyday bullshit,
Yeah. Now, I've personally never tried to write a joke. Not really my thing. But you, on the other hand.
Yeah, I've tried, and I've done different comedy stuff, whether it's stand-up or writing or other, things that elicit laughter. I mean, it's like
sex, stuff like that.
Yeah, unfortunately. That's the top of the leaderboard for me. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's like one of the big things is when you want, you get a thought in your head and you're like, okay, fuck, that's funny. But like, I guess the devil in the details, like how do I get there, what you're saying, but without having to throw everything out. Right. That's a problem that I encounter.
It's like seeing a painting in your head and then like actually making it.
Totally. Yeah. Because like, especially with people that are funny, like my sense of humor compared to like average Joe is going to be way better. You know what I mean? Just in an objective, like I'm obsessed with comedy. I focus on comedy. I write comedy. Like I read like street joke books. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like my sense of humor is a little bit more, refined or whatever. So you can say something on stage that is funny. And you're like, this is a funny idea, but you may not communicate it the right way to the crowd. So for them, they're like, why would you say that out loud? Just like any like little, writing jokes it's hard to do. Yeah. Because you can have the painting in your head, but then when you put it down, you're like, this doesn't look anything at all how I pictured it going. So yeah, but also like the process of writing and like figuring stuff out is so fun to me. Like I love like the discovery part of it is super fun because I try and do it like a little bit more organically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a joke is always, the structure of a joke is going to be like the setup. So like, what's the topic? So you have the setup, and then you have like the punchline, which is like, obviously the funny part of the subject. So setup's like, I'm going to talk about mittens or whatever. That's the setup. You bring it up somehow, like, don't you hate mittens? And then the punchline's like, yeah, because they always get stuck in my pants or whatever, or something stupid. And then you can tag it and be like, thank God I never wear pants. You know what I mean? So like, that's like the basic structure of a joke. So like, you have to set up the punchline, and then you can tag it if you want. So like, for me, it's like whenever I write, it's like an idea will just almost fully formed just come to me, and then I'll just jot it down, and then I'll go to this stage and then do the joke as it came to me. And then what I'll do is, and I'll record it, and then I'll go back and be like, okay, I'll, tabulate, like, okay, this is what the joke is, blah, blah, blah. This is where it needs to be tighter. Like, this is, like, 2 weak points in the joke. I need to tighten that up, put new punchlines, maybe change the order. But then after I do, like, the first edit, then I go back on stage, do it again, record it, and then maybe do a couple more edits. But then it's just, like, I'm just doing it over and over and over again, and then I'm just, like, self-editing in real time and stuff and, like, changing stuff around. So it's all, like, very, very organic and natural, for me at least. But I'm also not super prolific. So,
After you did your... I'm going to plug for you a little bit, just so you know. After you did the stand-up open mic that you did, literally right before the pandemic.
Like, oh, really?
Yeah, he did a 5-minute set at Tree Bar, like right before everything went.
Yeah. Dude, I love that bar.
It's fantastic.
I love doing comedy there. It's
a good space. It's like because it's intimate.
Yeah.
And I like the lighting there.
Yeah, I love it too. What have you done since then to work on anything? Have you like?
There are like sporadic moments where like I'll think of like a joke that's very topical. That's really been one of the things that's gotten me during this time, because I'm someone who likes to make topical jokes because it's I find that's like an easy way to connect with people, more so than like maybe something that's more relatable from like a past or something. And I just don't have as much life experience just by age. But like I'll think of something, I'm like, well, toilet paper. Yeah. That was like funny like 3.5 months ago.
Yeah.
Or like, coming up with jokes about masks or whatever shit. Yeah. But so I've been doing a little bit of joke writing, but I've also been doing writing satire. That's just something that's easier for me right now.
Yeah.
Because I think digital comedy I find it to be very different from stand-up, because I think like that the dynamic like feel of stand-up is one of the most important elements to it.
Yeah.
Whereas I think digital is very dynamic.
Yeah, it's like watching a concert on YouTube versus being at that concert.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's still, you can still enjoy it, you can still love it, it can still be cool, it can still be music, but it's like a totally different vibe.
And like the difference between joke writing in the first stand-up and like writing for like a piece, whereas like reading stand-up, it's not funny. Like reading like bullet points, it's like, oh, then do this, snap your finger now. Like that's not funny, but like trying to figure out ways to put what I'm thinking at that moment on stage into a joke, as opposed to like, okay, I'm just gonna write this like well-written thing for like a piece I'm writing. Where it's like the details are good for a satire piece, but they're not easily found on stage.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because I find satire and sarcasm specifically are really hard to do on stage. Do you have any jokes off the top of your head that you know? I don't want to put you on the spot or anything.
Tell us a joke.
Dance monkey. If I had some quarters, I'd throw away your feet. You don't have to. But.
Yeah, I mean, I have some like quips that I was thinking about. Like, I don't have any joke structures, but right when you're talking about like, we were talking about nosers, like people who pull their like it just came into my head like the camel toe of COVID, or like the COVID butt crack, or butt crack of COVID or something.
That's fucking funny, yeah.
But it's like coming up with one-liners and trying to like...
Yeah, do you fuck with Twitter a lot?
I did Twitter for a little bit. I can only do it for like 10 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a good like joke place, because then you can just throw like a one-liner out there.
Yeah, that's usually I'll go like a week or two without doing anything. I'll just be like joke, and then just like bail out for like 2 weeks. I'm the same way, because I'm like, I can't sit there. And, let me write a Twitter joke. It's got to like come up, or I got to think of it.
I think I put out a couple tweets once. One of them was, "Why are all numbers capitalized?" It's like the one I'm proud of.
That's really funny. I like that. One of my tweets got up in BuzzFeed during quarantine. I was psyched about it. Yeah. Yeah, it was this quarantine is the closest thing any of us millennials will get to retirement.
I saw that one.
Yeah. So I got popped up on a BuzzFeed, and I was like, oh hell yeah, I'm gonna tell people. I'm like, that's gonna be a credit. I'm gonna come out of this quarantine as a published BuzzFeed writer. I'm gonna tell people that I wrote it. They did the rest, but I wrote it. Like.
Put that your resume or something.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like, featured on BuzzFeed, not bad. Even though it was like a 14-word joke, or whatever.
we had the founders of Columbus Underground on a few weeks ago, and I was asking them if they were planning on, like, jokingly, wise, if they were planning on, like, moving over to doing BuzzFeed quizzes on Columbus Underground. And something that Walker threw out immediately was like, which Columbus neighborhood are you? And I was like, holy shit, that would be great. Yeah. Like, I want to know if I'm a Whitehall or if I'm an Upper Arlington. You know what I mean? Like, I want to figure that shit out. So, right. Let's work on that together. But anyway, let's see. We are at about an hour 20. Does anyone have any time constraints?
I do. I have to go buy a guitar amp in a little bit.
Oh, shit. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Well.
But, yeah, I mean, we got like 20 more minutes if you want to, or whatever.
Fair enough. Why not?
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm editing this show right now.
So, I already asked that one. Shit. Okay, so let's get into something that might be a little controversial, little shirt flipper here. How has Columbus helped you succeed, but how has it also hindered your progress?
Yeah. Keep in mind, I'm from a different comedy scene. So I'm from two different comedy scenes. So I came up in like Dayton and Cincinnati mostly. So like those scenes, they had their own growth and periods, and like they're all different. And Columbus, so like the thing that's good about Dayton, that's good about Cincinnati, that's good about Columbus, they're all going to be different. And the things that are bad about all of them are also going to be very, very different. So like the thing I think I love about Columbus is like there's a shitload of stage time, and there is a funny bone up here, but it's not accessible to local comedians.
Yep.
Which, you know, is good and bad. It's good in the sense that, like, well, that means all of us people that are creative, that are doing stand-up, like, it's up to us to run shows, which I think makes shows better. When comedians are actually the ones running them, they know how shows work. They know what makes a good show, usually. They usually know what makes a good show. They usually know how to make them work, you know. So that's one of the things I love is the DIY scene up here is fucking killer. And, like, in Dayton, like, the comedy scene really wasn't much when I like started, so like me and a couple buddies like really worked hard on like making it more of the DIY, like making it way more accessible. There's a lot of shows, a lot of mics, so like that's here. Like coming up here, you're like, oh yeah, I don't have to worry about trying to build that. Like it's just here, you know. But on the flip side of that is like you don't have a comedy club that everyone has access to, so that can kind of almost deregulate a comedy scene a little bit.
And one was built like right before all this, and then they couldn't. It was like the hashtag comedy club.
Yeah, I saw that. And it's such a bummer. It's awful, but like, but without like Cincinnati, for example, has Go Bananas, which is one of the best comedy clubs in the country. So like the whole entire comedy scene revolves around working at Go Bananas, and so like the people that do work Go Bananas are like really involved in the open mic scene and the DIY scene too. So like there's a very clear like leadership structure of like not like we're better than you. It's more like I've been doing this for 6-7 years, so like the advice I'm going to give you, the way that I'm going to conduct myself is going to be like a good example. So like Cincinnati is crazy supportive, like really accessible to any different types of people. They always have new people starting. You know, it's a very supportive scene.
That's cool.
And they have the Go Bananas because they all like we all have this one common goal, which all stand-ups do really, but it's very easy to see when you have like the club, you know. Same thing with like Dayton, you got Wiley's, and so like for us it's like very easy to be like, well no, we all want to work Wiley's, so like that's an easy thing for all of us to do. Whereas in Columbus it's like, well, there's no real club you can work. I mean there is a club and it's like a nice club or whatever, but like they just don't let a bunch of locals in. So you know, it's with that, like there's not a whole lot of commonality in the scene as a whole. Like there are a lot of like, you know, the scene's good. I like the scene. I'm just saying, like, it's... I don't want to say cliquey because that sounds like I'm talking shit about it, but, like, you know, like, people have their groups. That's how people work. But, like, it's a lot harder for me, at least, in my opinion, to see those kind of bridges cross into those other groups. It does happen, but, you know, I'm not saying I'm not guilty of it either, but I'm just saying there's not that one central thing that every single person in Columbus is working exactly at. And I think that can kind of hurt a comedy scene a little bit, you know.
I agree with that for my limited experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I've been hearing from other people, and that sounds about right. And you know, that the hashtag club that was about to open before, you know, the shittiness, the happening. Was going to be geared more toward improv anyway. So I wasn't sure how much of that club's resources would be directed toward actual stand-up, or if it would be like all improv only, or so. And don't get me wrong, improv's awesome. Really hard to do really well though.
I'm terrible. I took improv classes for like almost 2 years, and I'm horrible.
I've taken them too. Yeah,
I suck. It made me way better at stand-up, but I am not good at improv.
You gain a ton from it, like just as a person too. You know, thinking on your feet a little bit more. But like, I probably wouldn't be doing this show if I hadn't taken those improv classes. But
I think it's great. But like, weirdly enough, the best that I do at improv is when I'm on stage by myself.
Yeah.
It's because I'm not worried about anybody else.
Cooperation,
it's hard.
Ideologically and intellectually, it's hard. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super difficult. Like my partner, we do improv together, and like we would have pretty good chemistry on stage, but she's like so much better than me. I was just like, why am I on stage with you? Like, this is terrible for me. Like, I'm dragging you down. You know what I mean? But like, even like our on stage chemistry, like, it's good because we used to do a variety show too that we would host together. So like, we have on stage chemistry, we have regular chemistry, but like, even when I'm like with improv, I'm like, I'm just not bringing it nearly as well as I could, you know. But yeah, but that's the cool thing. Like Columbus, on the other hand, like you look at all the improv theaters they have, whereas like the improv scene's way more like central. Like you have like, we got what's the one, Mad Lab or whatever.
Mad Lab, yeah. Third Street, I think.
Yeah, and then you have what's the one that's
Shadowbox.
Yeah, Shadowbox.
Yeah.
I love doing shows there too.
Yeah, that's great.
It's a great venue. You know, places like that. So it is like there's improv scenes. Like, well, we have this venue that we want to play. We have this venue that we want to play. Like, these are the big improv theater venues in the city. And I was like, well, stand up, man. You know, you don't really like. You have like Amber Falter runs like big shows.
Shout out Amber.
Yeah, Amber's great. Dustin Meadow. I don't know if he runs shows any. I mean, who knows what the fuck's going on with shows? But Dustin Meadows, Tom Plute runs really fun shows. Like, there's a lot of good shows. Don't get me wrong. It's just like if you're running your own independent show, right? Like, for lower comedians, like, yes, that's a goal that I want. I want to be able to be on this show. That's a very, easy goal to want, right? But then for that showrunner, it's like, well, where can I go? You know what I mean? Because the buck kind of stops with them. It's like, well, I can run as many shows as I want, but there's not shows that somebody else is running that like are the next level up. You know what I mean? So like, if you're like an Amber, if you're like a Tom, if you're like a Dustin, if you're like one of those people that like is a very talented comedian that runs the best shows, like, them there's a little disservice because they're like, well, they're not getting an opportunity to do even better shows because they're running the better shows, So, if that makes any sense, I don't know if it does or not. But,
yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, because like the club is like the next step up because like club is like that's how if you want to be like make it a profession, you know what I mean? Like unfortunately you have to work clubs like at least a little bit. So, that without that, I think a lot of people are kind of like, and it kind of sucks for Columbus because there's so many talented comedians here, and there have been so many talented comedians here, but like in a huge city like Columbus, comics are almost forced to move to go look for something better, which just doesn't need to be like this. Like, isn't Columbus like population like just behind like Chicago and like next to Detroit, like in the Midwest?
All I know is that the Columbus metro area has more people in it than the San Francisco metro area.
Yeah, so like, there's no point to not have, like, no comedian should have to move out of Columbus, to make it. Like, there's enough people, and like, dude, if you just go to a random show, because there's no comedy club in the city, like, dude, I just done random bar shows, and the crowds are always so psyched to have it because they're like, we want to watch comedy. It's just it's not accessible to us because there's not one central place we know we can go in every weekend and go see it. So that's what's also really awesome about Columbus is the crowds. Like, doing stand-up isn't, quote, easier in Columbus, but like there's certain, like, you don't have to strip out some of the integrity of your joke to make it work. You can kind of just leave it as is and not have to worry about it. Or if you go to like somewhere rural, you're like, okay, I may have to take the teeth out of this one a little bit so I don't alienate anybody, something like that. So Columbus, you don't really have to worry about that. You can just kind of go. So it's a cool town. I like it, but you need a goddamn comedy club.
Something I've noticed about Columbus comedy, I don't know if it's the same for other places, but the entry and like the stage time is like consistent for everyone who like wants to try it. Like, if you are willing to try it and like get at least a little bit good at it, like you're guaranteed at least a spot somewhere, which I think is nice. I guess it didn't seem to me that would be the case in a comedy scene, but just from what I've seen, that's how it is.
Yeah,
here in
well, like I
Columbus.
remember like coming up like in Dayton and Cincinnati, it was a lot harder to get on like booked shows because like if you hadn't been doing it for a long time, you don't have that like clout or that experience or like the relationship with those comedians. So, like getting onto those shows is hard. Whereas I feel like in Columbus, like I literally showed up and with like 2 weeks, I was booked on like all the pretty major shows of the city. So I was like, so the opportunity, like you said, like if you try and you get better and you like are showing that, like getting booked here is so much easier than booking other, not every place, but it is a lot easier than say like Dayton, because like Dayton doesn't have nearly as many shows in general compared to it, so the slots are even more limited and stuff. So getting stage time in Columbus is not a problem, and the shows are fun. Like all these, like Chris Fenner runs a good show too at some brewery. I can't remember what it's called.
There's so many.
Yeah, there's so many breweries. Columbus is just a bunch of breweries. There's a lot of really cool. Even like those shitty shows have been like fun as hell.
Yeah. I think it's funny that we're currently recording this episode in the brewery district. Yeah, there are no breweries here.
Yeah,
so
really?
they're all everywhere else.
That's
It's so weird. Yeah, but shout out to somebody that I haven't seen since February. Do you remember Robbie D? I think you and I went 1 week, and then his set is more like straight up yelling. And then like the first week it was like nobody was really laughing, and then the second week it was at Tree Bar.
Yeah.
And then like I walked up, he did so well the second time. I walked up to him, I was like, dude, you improved in the last week like incredibly. Like I don't know what you did, but he was like, thanks man. But I'm really hoping you're listening because you do good shit. But I haven't seen him like anywhere, even on Instagram or anything since then. But shout out Robbie, cool dude. Yeah. Anyway, just thought I'd give you a little positive energy today. Do we have anything else to cover? I think we got through everything actually in a good amount of time because it's like we're an hour and a half in. So.
Yeah, I tried to keep in mind what you said before this podcast. I was like, if this will naturally transition to that topic, I'll just do it.
Yeah.
So I hope we got everything.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
I mean, usually there are some questions that are like, we don't even need to cover that or anything. So, cool.
Do you guys have any other questions? Any random shit?
How much time? We got 10 minutes left from what you said.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah.
I have a weird offhand question that has a really quick answer for either of you. We were talking about reading comedy earlier.
Yeah.
Like reading stand-up comedy. I was just wondering if either of you have ever read a novel and then like the sentence after dialogue says there was a long pause. Do you ever sit there and not read the next line until a few seconds later?
No.
No?
Never.
See, I take it like a recipe. Like I sit there for a second.
Yeah.
I digest what that guy just said.
Yeah. This is embarrassing. I'm fairly well read, but like if it's like a funny book, like I have to have someone tell me that it's funny.
Really?
You know what I mean? I'm like, is this a funny one? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, now with that lens, I can go in and know that it's funny.
Yeah.
But like if like Of Mice and Men, for example, like the first like 20 pages, like this is terrible. This is so sad. And then someone's like, that's a comedy. I was like, what? So I started it over. I was like, oh, this is actually pretty funny.
I should read that again then, because that did not come across. Yeah, okay, that makes more sense now.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely still like super sad, but
like
in high school they wouldn't tell you it's comedy.
Yeah, because I can imagine like everyone's like reading it. You know, the teacher says, "Oh, can you read like a page?" And like you go around classroom,
popcorn
like,
reading, bro.
Popcorn
Fuck
reading
that.
shit. And like laughing at like the certain conditions of people in that book and like taking that as funny. And like a high school,
God,
that would be like,
doing
I'm sure it's
comedy
happened
class.
before.
Yeah.
But like, you know.
Yeah.
Isn't there I'm not sure. I actually have not read this book, but I've heard it I think in what is it, Grapes of Wrath or something?
Yeah.
By the same like
Steinbeck.
at the end the guy like is like nursing some young woman, like this 7-year-old guy. And like I'm trying to think of like if he was meant that to like have the reader laugh or be like, oh shit, like this guy is like going through a calamity and he's like you know, it's like I don't know.
It's just all, and that's where the art is to be interpreted thing is like, that's where that works against you to some extent. It's like you can interpret this as like the worst shit ever. You know?
You can talk to your grandmother about that book or something, And you can like say like, oh, then you like sucked her nipple and like nursed her, or then you can be like say it like very solemnly, like, and she's like, yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah.
How we had to do that.
Just awful. Like the only authors I know that are like straight up funny are like Mark Twain, but he also invented stand-up comedy, and who's the dude that did like Slaughterhouse?
Vonnegut.
Kurt Vonnegut.
Yeah, like he's funny. But even that, I was like, someone's like, he's funny. You should read him. Like, you got it. I'll try it. And it is funny. Stand-up's better.
The Bible's a comedy. Anyway, just read it as a comedy. It's way better.
Like Numbers is just a credit.
I wonder if that's like if that's like a Reddit challenge or something. Like read this book as a comedy, like or some random like very serious book.
Like
I'm just looking at like
experiment.
Something by whatever Ayn Rand.
Ayn Rand. Oh jeez, I don't even know why I have that book.
I was gonna say, what the fuck?
I called you out on that.
I did. Yeah, I read Anthem. I thought it was cool.
Yeah,
but
like read whatever Anthem as it and like anticipate your laughter like after a few paragraphs.
Yeah,
and
if
see
you,
what happens.
I think Atlas Shrugged would be way better if it was a comedy.
Yeah,
agreed.
Way better.
I think someone should make a movie out of Atlas Shrugged as a comedy.
Yeah,
because they did make the movies already, but they do need to make a comedy.
Yeah.
I read the first 100 pages of that book, and then I stopped because I got bored. But
yeah, I read Objectivism, and I was just like, first couple pages, like, this is interesting. And like by like page 40, I was like, this is bullshit. This is stupid. Fuck you, Ayn Rand. Motherfucker, you were on Social Security, whatever. I fucking ugh.
Here's a question that's worth asking on the list. Why not? What advice, other than what you've already given, would you give to someone intending to pursue comedy?
Kill your landlord. No, no, I think honestly, like, I don't know, I'm neurotic and anxiety ridden, so like for me, all of my challenges are like I have these ideas and then not putting off doing it. You know what I mean? So like, if you want to be good at comedy or you want to do comedy, just do it. Like, no matter what, you're gonna suck at the beginning. Everybody does. Like, the thing is, only Dave Chappelle didn't suck when he started. Like, and he's the best of all time. So like, everyone sucks at the beginning. So just like start doing it. Write everything down. Like, give it a shot. Just like try it, because like it's just like I sell glasses as my day job, and I always tell people, I'm like, if you like the way the frame looks on the wall, put it on, because you're not going to know how it feels and how you look in it unless you actually try it. So like the same thing with stand-up. You don't know if you like it unless you, or if you're good at it, or if you're bad at it, unless you actually start and try and do it. So I just say, you know, it makes sense to be anxious and to be nervous about it, but the first time's always the hardest time, because just with everything, like you do it the one time and it's not so scary the second time you do it. So that's what I say to people is, if you want to do it, just fucking do it.
Yeah.
It sounds cheesy, but like you only have one life as far as we know. So like, if you really love comedy and you want to give it a shot, even if you don't take it that seriously, you just want to try it, just try it. It's fun. It's worth it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Cool.
And kill your landlord. Yeah.
Do it.
Do it.
Cool. All right, well, I guess I'll do comedy, Jake. How about that?
If you want to, you don't.
Sure, he's telling me to do it. Okay.
Yeah, or guitar, or murder. If that's your thing, podcasting. Yeah.
Or kill your landlord.
Or kill your landlord.
Yeah.
Just like
try it once.
Yeah, just try. Yeah, you only got one. You know. Next time you gotta kill your landlord won't be that hard.
Exactly. You already did it once. A lot better.
Yeah.
Try podcasting for real.
Yeah.
Actually, quick tangent about that. How competitive does comedy feel in general? Because with podcasting, it's like not.
Yeah, I feel like comedy can be competitive because you have people that like going on stage and getting attention. So like, there's kind of this implied ego to any type of performance art in general, but especially comedy. Because comedy's like, these are my ideas, you should like them. You know. So I think there is like kind of, with the ego, there is some competitiveness kind of built into stand-up. For me personally, I definitely was competitive when I was younger, but now it's like, I think at a certain point you kind of realize like, it's not me versus you, it's just they picked you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because for whatever reason, and it makes sense. So like, what you can use that as motivation, but like my friend Blake, for example, like, he's had a lot of success and he's done really well. And that kind of makes you a little competitive. You're like, I want to be as good as Blake and I want to be as successful as Blake. But it's not like, because he opened for Patton Oswalt. It wasn't like Patton was like, well, I'm going to pick Dan, I'm going to pick Blake. It's like, no, he picked Blake because Blake did something that he saw that he thought was fun. Like, Blake got that opportunity. I didn't earn it. You know what I mean? So, like, for me, it's like, what's that to be competitive about other than I want to be as good as Blake? So I think there's, like, the motivation's good, but I do think there is, like, that general, like, I want this fucking spot. You know what I mean? Like, they got this spot, I didn't get this spot, I'm better than them. That's bullshit. Like, I've said that shit before. Like, everybody has those things, but I think in the right community, in the right scene, it's not. Like, Cincinnati's, like, not a very competitive comedy scene because everyone's so supportive. Same with, like, Dayton, and it's also really small, so there's what's there to compete with, so... But yeah, that's what I think there is definitely a lot of competitiveness. But I think the longer you do stand-up, the less competitive you get about it. You're just like, I've been through... Because, like, you get turned down for a bunch of shows, you get fucking... Your audition sucks or whatever, so you kind of just like, it's all my fault. Like, I did this show at Crackers, this comedy club in Indianapolis, like, this passing audition thing. And, like, I did really well. But it was, like, the first time the owner saw me, so, like, I didn't pass, even though, like, I did well. But my friend who they had seen, like, 4 or 5 times passed. And I was like, so they get to work at the club. So, like, okay, well, they didn't pick them over me. It's like they just have seen them more and seen them be more consistent. So that's why they picked them. And they didn't do that, so they didn't see that for me. So, like, yeah, all right, that's my problem. Not my fucking friend's problem that I can't get booked.
Well, I guess a final closing message would be comedians of Columbus, if you're listening to this, band together and start a club, and so that it can be built in time for COVID to be ended.
Yeah. If one of us kills our landlord, we can just take that apartment and then turn it into a comedy club.
Exactly. Yeah. Take a complex, knock out the walls, man.
Yeah. Not mine though, because my landlord's big. Anybody else's landlord, though. I don't care.
Okay. Well, I think it is about that time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah,
this was
thank
fun.
you for coming on the show. Super awesome.
Of course.
Go support CCCG. Go support your local comedy scene however you can. We'll be back next week as per usual, Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. I know you're listening then because you're a dedicated listener. Spotify doesn't put it up till 6:15. I don't know why. It's really weird.
Bastards.
I know.
Some of us have schedules. Spotify.
Right? Fuck them. We'll catch you next Wednesday morning. Thank you very much.
Follow me on social medias.
Oh, shit. Yeah. Where can people find and support you? I always ask that.
My name, if you just type in my name to Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, it's Dan Sebree, Sebree. My Twitter's at Dan Sebree. Facebook's Dan Sebree. My Instagram's Infinite Ginger. Like David Foster Wallace, Infinite Jest.
Nice.
That's kind of where it came from. Yeah, so, follow me on that stuff I post, and then, like, jokes and stuff, and yeah.
Do you have any last-minute shout-outs to make?
I'd like to thank God. No, I'm just kidding. I'd like to thank my parents for doing it. The Ashton Kutcher speech.
All right, Chance.
Yeah.
All right.
No, anybody that's doing online shows and, like, doing something to help other people, like, volunteer, I think all that stuff is important now. Hell yeah to all the protesters being out there. I don't know if you guys are there. I got pepper sprayed a bunch and stuff. It was cool. But yeah, anybody who's out there, like, fucking fighting a good fight, like, shout out to that, and support black-owned businesses and stuff like that, and give people money, I guess, and redistribute property, or whatever. It's all up to you guys. Nah, just, I think there's a lot of really crazy, like the pandemic, the fucking protests, Trump's a piece of shit, garbage, whatever, but I think everything's so scary, but I think one of the things to keep in mind is, like, the insane amount of people lifting each other up that we've seen through all this. I think it's very easy to, like, be divided amongst whatever, and I just think, like, dude, everyone's doing something. Like, you can't go on Facebook without seeing someone do something amazing. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think that's awesome. And that's just, to anybody who's doing that and continuing to do that, thank you. Because I know I need it. I need to see those positive things. So, hell yeah. I don't want to be on a soapbox. You guys are nice.
All right. Catch you next week. Thanks for listening.